Welcome back to Skills Live. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, the headquarters in Tarzana, California, and our special guest right now is Dr. Adel Najdowski. I'm thrilled that you're here with us because there's so many things that I want to talk to you about, and we haven't had an opportunity to have you back in the studio in a while. And there's been a lot of things going on in the news that I tell you what, I get so disturbed when I see these things, and I know that it's not that it's a new thing, but we were talking earlier about the teacher who's been suspended because she was pinching a student's ears because he is on the spectrum and he was pinching he has a thing where he perseverates and wants to touch other people's ears, and she thought, well,
my daughter does that to me when she sucks her thumb.
Really?
Yeah.
She wants to touch your ears?
She likes to rub the little lobes while she sucks her thumb. It's like a soothing thing for her.
Interesting. Well, this child, and I think he's like in 4th grade, so not considered socially acceptable at that age, but likes to go around and touch other people's ears. And this substitute teacher came in, I think it was a long-term sub, and with what she knew, she looked at this situation and said, well, I don't think these children like having their ears touched, so I'm just going to demonstrate for this child what it feels like. So anytime he would do it, she would go up and pinch his ears to the point where she was hurting the child. And of course, now she's been suspended, and in all likelihood, there'll be a lawsuit. It's not part of his behavior intervention plan for her to pinch his ears.
Yikes, yeah.
Right? Then, of course, there's the case of the teacher who was given a cardboard box for the child as a sensory place to go before something happened so that he could quiet himself and get himself together.
That was supposed to be an antecedent manipulation, right?
Right. And instead, the teacher...
Let's not wait for problem behavior to deliver it, right? Yep.
But the teacher did not understand that, did not have the tools to understand that, and thought, well, whenever the child engages in a challenging behavior, I'm going to use it as the place to punish him.
So it was more of used as a punisher, got it.
Right. And, and what's maddening to me is that, and of course, the lady who put the child in the duffel bag for the challenging behavior, what's maddening to me is that clearly there's a disconnect here. You have teachers, and I'm sorry, as an ex-teacher, I know that for people to go into the classroom and get paid the small amount that they do to put up with the things that they do, I understand that there are some people who should never be in a classroom, but most of them are well-intentioned. But if they don't have the tools, I just get frustrated because I think that these administrators, what is their expectation that suddenly, I said earlier, the autism fairy is going to come in and bonk them in the head and they'll magically know how to deal with these behaviors. And it's so simple to me. The cardboard box is such a wonderful example, maddening, but at some point, I'm sure that the teacher noticed that it wasn't helping, that the child was engaging in more challenging behavior because he wanted access to the box, right? So instead of helping the behavior, what it was doing was putting him someplace where she didn't have to deal with it. And that's tragic to me because if somebody had just explained to that teacher, look, you want to get there before the behavior. That is what this is for. It is never to be used as a punishment. Here's the difference between these two things.
And by the way, if you are using it for a punishment, by definition, that means it should be decreasing your child's behavior. But instead, it's increasing it, so it's actually not working. Exactly. Which is another reason why everyone needs to collect data on what they do.
Right.
It should be objective.
Right.
Yeah,
because if she had even just noticed, well, it's not decreasing, so it's not working, but I'm sure she was busy with other. My point is, our teachers need more tools. They need to understand these things, and it's a little frustrating to me as a parent because you don't always have the control of knowing who knows what. And I would like to see as a parent, and I'm throwing out a call there, that every single teacher that has access to a child who is on the spectrum is required to have a level of understanding, a level of education, some certification, or the ability for us to be able to know how to handle this problem. I think the teachers would enjoy it.
We really, really, really need to get ABA embedded into the university special education and even regular education programs, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
That should be the goal.
And all the aides need to have access. And I was saying to this, Judah, during the break, is that I think that a lot of parents, I think we got to start with the parents, but there are a lot of parents that are out there that think if a child engages in a challenging behavior that's disruptive to the classroom and preventing their child or another child from accessing the curriculum, the parents feel bad about it, but I don't think they know that there's something that can be done. So start there with us. Can we change those behaviors?
Well, first of all, you just said the parents feel bad because their child's behaving in a certain way. When in actuality, children are behaving in those ways because they're shaped by their environments. Like, it's been reinforced. That's why they keep doing it. So why should the parent feel bad about it? It has nothing to do with the parent. It has to do with that classroom. The classroom is not doing things right. The classroom is responsible for that behavior.
Yes.
So they should be actually angry with the teachers.
And we do.
Not feeling bad like there's something's wrong with their kid. It's the learner. The learner was taught to be that way by the consequences given for their behaviors.
And intellectually, I can tell you that I understand that, although I think a lot of people, that's a new concept for them. But I can tell you that emotionally, when they say to me, your child hit that child, my child doesn't do that anymore, but at one point he was kicking a child in class, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so embarrassed, and oh my gosh, and what if that's the autism and we can't fix that? That's the way it feels. Right. That's the thought that goes through your head. But we can change that behavior, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to know as parents. And then the second thing that I want to know is that if we give our teachers tools, can they change the behavior?
Yes, they certainly can.
Okay, so what kinds of things... give me an example of a way that a teacher can change a behavior. So for instance, for this child who is pinching the ears, and of course we don't know the whole be-all end, but what's the process that we would go through to be able to help this child change this behavior?
Well, obviously with any challenging behavior, and I'm certain that school districts are doing this because it's law now. You have to do a functional behavioral assessment, and you should actually know what is the reason behind why the child's engaging in the behavior, and then you have to come up with some new behavior for them to engage in instead that serves the same purpose.
So that's the law. That's what should happen. But I can tell you that in reality, a lot of times the teachers don't even know to ask for that.
So the question always that one would ask themselves is, why is the child engaging in this behavior?
Right. That's got to be the first thing out the gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then figuring out what the reason is, and once you know the reason for the behavior, you have to then think, okay, this child obviously needs to contact that. That's why they're doing the behavior. So let me figure out a different way that they can contact that. So if the child is pinching ears because it's not, I mean, he probably wasn't even really pinching them, but I don't want to sound like that.
Yeah.
Touching ears because it felt good or something like that, then we need to find some other thing that the child can do that gives them that same sensory experience.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And we replace the behavior with a new behavior, and that's it. And then you reinforce it. And you no longer provide reinforcement for the original behavior, so you do things like blocking. She didn't need to pinch his ears. She just needed to teach the other kids to block him from pinching their ears.
Right.
And I'm sorry I keep saying the boy was pinching. That sounds bad.
Well, that's how they're covering it in the media. And that was her interpretation of it.
Yeah.
That he was pinching the ears. So she pinched him because she didn't know any better. And I'm frustrated with that teacher, but it's a question of ignorance. And we can talk about how mad we are at the teacher, but I think at some point as parents, I feel as a parent, our topic today was choosing what to focus on. And I don't want to focus on how mad I am at the teacher. I want to focus on how can we fix this?
It's crazy because there's so many. Do you see how easy that solution could have been?
That's what makes me the maddest.
And it's so simple, and it's just thinking like outside the box and being creative and really trying to figure out why the child's doing it and thinking, okay, I want them to get that thing that they need so bad.
Right.
And so let's do something else. Like if the child's acting out to get attention, then you just teach them to get attention in a more positive way. Like even if they can't even speak, you could teach them to hold up a card that's green or something that means I need attention. It doesn't matter, like there's so many things you can do.
Yeah.
If a child's trying to get out of something they don't want to do and that's why they're engaging the behavior, then it's a matter of figuring out what can you do different about that task that they're trying to get out of. Maybe it's way above their head. You just have to, come down to the level that they're at, and you can't really blame them for being upset about the fact that you're giving them something that's way above their head. Maybe they just need some choices. Maybe they just need, a little bit more assistance.
Right.
Maybe, it's completely fine and they're just, don't want to do anything that you ever ask them. So then we start going to the point where, okay, well, you're just not going to get out of the task, but you can have breaks or something like that. It's just there's so many possible solutions. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is
happening.
It really is. There's a tool belt, And I just, I think that it needs to be given to the teachers, and it hasn't. All teachers have not had access to it yet. But I know that you've really taken this to heart, and you're about to do a series of webinars for teachers, right? Tell us a little bit about what that's going to look like and what kinds of subjects you're going to tackle.
Okay, so I'm going to try to do one once a month or so. And we have a list of people that we email and we e-blast about them. So if there's anyone who's watching who's interested, just let us know and we can always add you to the list.
And if you're a parent watching and you're thinking, wow, this is something that I want for my child's teacher and my child's potential teachers, because we're about to end a school year and go on to the next one, you can invite your child's teacher to attend these webinars. They're free, correct?
Correct. And actually, even though the target audience is teachers, I also feel like parents could come too, because it'll just provide more information about what ABA is and what we're about and what we do, so that you can become more familiarized with it in case it's something that you want to share that information later with your teachers.
And it's not like something you have to travel to go and do. You're doing it on the internet.
Yeah.
So if somebody has an internet connection, and it's totally free, but they have to reserve space in it, correct?
Correct. And so my first one is on April 10th, and it's at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, which is 3:30 on the East Coast, so that's good timing for them when they get out of school. And from now on, when I schedule these, I'm going to do 2 times, so that we make sure we're doing one after school for the West Coast and one after school for the East Coast people. And it's just for an hour, and so there's not really a lot you can accomplish in an hour. Like, I'm not going to be able to train people on how to do stuff, but I can educate them to know that things exist and give like little tasters, you know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
So this first one is mainly about just what ABA is and explaining what good intervention is for individuals with autism, what actually makes a good program, and all the components it should have.
Right.
And then getting into each of those details a little bit, and so it's a real introduction kind of a webinar. But in the future, I'll probably do some on challenging behavior and different topics like that. So,
but I just have to say that even for that teacher the pinching ear, the alleged pinching ear incident, just understanding that there are other things that you can do and that there's a different way that you can look at this could have been life-changing for her and that child, that it's that simple.
Well, you notice, like, people jump to punishment.
Yep.
She basically said, I don't want him to do this anymore, I need to punish it, so I'm going to go over, I'm going to pinch his ears.
And we all understand that. I mean, I jump to nag. I talk about that on the show all the time. My first instinct is, let me nag that behavior to death. It doesn't work. It's not effective, but it is my first instinct. And we all know we live in a punishment-driven society, and we all tend to go there. I get that, but it doesn't work. And at what point are these teachers going to realize, like, how many times did she have to pinch his ears and realize it wasn't working before she was ready to try something else? And I have no judgment there either, because I like to beat my head against a wall on some things too before somebody goes, seriously, that's not working. Would you like to try something else?
So here's the other thing, is why wasn't there a behavior intervention plan in place for that child, for that behavior? If it was that concerning and everyone was having a rough time with it enough to use that sort of a punishment, there needed to be a behavior intervention plan, also referred to as a BIP, or sometimes I hear people say BIP. I don't know, but
we call it the BIP.
Acceptable.
The parents refer to it as the BIP.
I never called them BIPs, but
parent. With all your letters and your anagrams for everything, we have to come up with ways. But you have something that can help us with a BIP as well, correct?
I am so ridiculously excited about this new tool.
I am too.
I can't even believe it, actually.
Let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the BIP.
Okay.
Stick with us. Welcome back. You were just seeing Dr. Adel Najdowski, and we have her in the flesh live here with us right now. And before the break, we were talking with her about a BIP, a behavior intervention plan, the BIP.
Can't believe we're calling it a BIP.
Well, I call it a BIP. You don't have to call it a BIP. But it's a behavior intervention plan, and it's something that if our child has any challenging behaviors, and again, realize that's a wide spectrum of things, whether it's, it could be something where they're hitting or kicking or touching other people's ears or humming, anything that is presenting a problem in the classroom, we should have attached to our IEP a behavior intervention plan, a BIP for that behavior. And it's essentially what? What is a BIP?
So essentially when you design a BIP, you first do an assessment, and this is required. It's called a functional behavioral assessment, and people also refer to them as an FBA. And basically, in the assessment, you're getting at what I said earlier before the break, which is figuring out why the child is doing it. That's the whole purpose of this assessment. Once you've done that, then you can start going down the road of creating the behavior intervention plan, or the BIP. And essentially what it looks like is it's easy, like it's everything else we do in ABA, right?
Yeah.
Like you've gone over this so many times.
Yeah.
Remember the ABC model?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly that. There's a top section for antecedent, A, middle section for B for behavior, and that basically refers to what is the replacement behavior going to be, and then the last section is C for consequence, and it's what are the consequences. So you literally just decide,
it's a roadmap, right?
Here's the behavior that the child's engaging in. That's usually at the top. You define what that behavior is, and then you say for every single time that someone sees that behavior that's on this child's team, they're going to follow this procedure on this BIP. And the antecedent procedure lists all the different things we're going to try to do to prevent the behavior from even occurring to begin with.
Right.
The second section about the behavior is going to provide a replacement behavior. So instead of engaging in ear touching or hitting or whatever it may be, the child's going to do this other thing instead.
Right.
And then now the C for consequence side lists what will the consequences be, both for A, when they engage in the new behavior or the replacement behavior, but also what will the consequences be if they still engage in the old maladaptive or challenging behavior.
Okay.
And that's it. And you just follow it like a roadmap.
And when you have this and it's attached to your IEP, it becomes part of the IEP, it's part of the legal document, and it means that the people who work with your child, everyone who works with your child is supposed to follow that roadmap in dealing with the behavior. So you don't get somebody pinching ears, or it's illegal, and you don't get somebody sending a child to a cardboard box for a punishment. Everybody who reads the BIP should be able to understand it and be able to implement it. And you have something new that you're really excited about with this. Tell us.
So excited. I can't even believe it. Just a couple of days ago on the skills system, we launched our behavior intervention plan builder. And I have to tell you that I'm an experienced clinician, and I've written many, many BIPs, and I've consulted with school districts and written BIPs for kids in their classrooms. And if I ever have to write another BIP again, I will use this builder. So it is that amazing. Basically, the way it works is it's quite elegant and simple. You first just go in and you pick out what the behavior is that you're writing the BIP for. It's got like drop-down menus and boxes that you check and things like that. And then there's a section for you to define what exactly that behavior looks like. And then you put in whatever the reason is why the child's engaging in the behavior, or what sometimes we refer to as the function of the behavior. And you need to know that part already, because this assumes you've already done the functional behavioral assessment. Now, I will say in the future we will be adding in a functional behavioral assessment as actually what's considered an indirect assessment, which means like an interview or questionnaire to try to get at the reasons why the child might be engaging in that. We're going to add that in, but that's coming in the future for skills. Okay. But for right now, if the functional behavioral assessment's already been done and you know why the child's engaging in that behavior, then you put that into the program. And then the next thing that happens is it's programmed, so when you say the child's engaging for a certain reason, it knows all the scientifically proven procedures that will work with that kind of behavior, as well as what's the least intrusive ones that you should be kind of trying to go towards first, and it presents to you questions based on that.
Okay.
And so it's completely intelligent and specific to the reason why the child's engaging in the behavior. And then you only have to answer about like 10 questions. And it basically starts with the antecedents, and it'll describe what the point is of the antecedent section and why you're going to be asked the next few questions. And then it'll ask you, here's one option you could use. Is this what you want? And then you say yes or no. And then depending on how you answer that, you get more questions. And so like if I said no to the first one, I'm going to get other options. Okay.
Because you may have already tried that one, and so you want to say no to it.
Yeah, well,
or it may not be possible in the environment.
It lists every possible option.
Right.
And so you're just going to pick the ones you want to do.
Okay.
And it also provides like guidelines a lot in the questions. So it'll be things like, the most effective treatment for this would be la 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 la. Is this something you want to use? Yes or no. Okay. And then if you still say no, well, then it'll offer other options too. And then it moves into the replacement behavior questions, which are just a few. And then it moves into the consequence options, again, asking you, describing each procedure, what it would be like for you so you understand what you're signing up for, and is this something you want in your BIP, yes or no. That's it. After you're done answering all the questions, it creates a BIP report completely filled out that already is in directive format, so it's literally written as if, like, if I was handed the BIP and said implement this, it's telling me what to do.
Exactly.
So it'll say something like, for antecedent, it'll say, you're going to use la 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 la, this is how you do it, and tell you what to do. But it also has a few fill in the blanks.
Right.
Where you get to customize stuff. So like, for example, for the replacement behavior, if you said that you were going to teach the child some functional communicative response for the behavior. So like, let's say before they were like hitting to get attention, but you're going to teach them to say like hi to get attention or something like that. It'll have like fill in the blanks that say when the child or the behavior they're going to engage in is going to be, and then you write in what exactly you want it to be, because maybe you're going to use a green card, or maybe you're going to use some gesture or something like that. And then it has spaces for you to write in. It'll say something like, this behavior is going to be reinforced on this schedule, and you get to say like if you want it to be reinforced every single time they do it, or if it's going to be every other or whatever. And the purpose for that is obviously we reinforce initially every single time, but then eventually we start to make it more natural, right?
Right, and fade it.
But in addition to all these little places where you can customize, you can literally go in and type extra sentences. You can change the whole thing, delete it all, and rewrite it in a different format.
It's wonderful.
If you don't like the way it's written, so it's completely editable.
And I gotta say, it's wonderful to hear you talk about it from a clinician's point of view, and that you love it from a clinician's point of view. I got a chance to look at it from a parent point of view, and I thought it was great too. I thought it was easy to use, and I was like, look at that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
It walks you through this and helps you to figure out and tells you, oh, that's what you do for that.
Yeah, and actually, I want to point out something. If you play around with it, don't get scared, because at first you'll see some terminology that you'll be like, what? Like it'll say like, NCR, or like, attention extinction, or things like that, because it's all listed by the title, and then it describes in a couple sentences afterward what it is. We did that on purpose because we figured that as people begin to use the BIP Builder more and more, they're going to actually start to memorize what each one of those questions really is asking, and not really want to read the whole thing.
Right.
So if we just have a little title next to it, then they'll learn it.
Right.
And they'll just see that title and not have to even read the question anymore and say yes or no.
Right.
And if you think about it subliminally, then we're teaching everybody the real terminology behind what that question is getting at. So,
so not to stress about it.
Don't stress about that. When you read the little couple sentences that come after each one of those, it actually defines what that is for you and explains it.
Incredibly cool. I'm really excited about it too. I got to take it out for a test drive.
What's so cool about it is that it makes sure that you don't forget all your options.
Yeah.
And that you don't forget different things you're supposed to include. Like you have to have a replacement behavior.
Right.
And if you don't, you didn't do a complete BIP. And so by having this, it kind of like prompts you through the process to make sure that it's a complete BIP, it has all the components it needs, and you've addressed and thought of every possible scientifically proven procedure when making your decisions about when to implement.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're out of time, but thank you so much for coming in and being with us. I want to remind everybody that your first webinar is on April 10th. It's 1 hour, and if they want to reserve a seat, they can go to info@skillsglobal.com to reserve a seat. You can reserve a seat. You were saying parents are okay, but you can also invite your child's teacher, your child's principal, your child's, anybody who is a member of your child's IEP team. You can invite them, and I think it's really beneficial. I know I'm inviting my son's child, so a wonderful thing.
Your son's child?
My son's child. My son's teacher. There we go. Thank you. See, I get close to the end and it all falls apart for me.